Hi, I'm Daryl Rainey from Progressive Realty Group here in Simcoe. Did you know that this industrial-looking building in the heart of Wellington Park is the only remaining example of the architecture of early foundries? At one time, it was also a brewery, the oldest and largest in the area during the 1800s. In this episode of Building History, our pal Josh from the Norfolk County Archives tells the story of this unique historical building.
If you're driving down Colborne, you might see this old white building by the Lynn River, and you might wonder, what is that building? Well, it was one of Norfolk County's earliest foundries. The original 200-acre lot was purchased in about 1824 by a George Kent. That lot was then bought by Edwin Kent, and he purchased that 200-acre lot so he could build his brewery there. And Kent operated his brewery in that location from 1840 until 1880. In 1880, Kent retired after running the brewery for 40 years, and he sold the business to a Mr. Finley. And Finley continued to run the brewery for another 6 years until about 1887, when he finally closed up shop. And when Finley was operating the brewery, he decided to rename the brewery from Kent Brewery to Simco Brewery. They were said to have brewed the finest first-class ales and porters in all of Norfolk County. In 1890, Mr. Steinhoff purchased the brewery and converted it into a foundry. At the foundry, he was manufacturing windmills, and during his time of running the foundry, he experienced a lot of fires there. Being a wood structure, there was a lot of concern about that building burning completely to the ground, and at one time in 1902, the local news reported about a large fire, and they thought the building was completely doomed. The building survived, and then eventually it was sold in 1904 to a Mr. John Stalker. John Stalker was born in 1866 in Port Ryerson. He came to Simcoe in 1888 to work for Weston Peachy, who were the manufacturers of the alligator tug. He later moved to BC, but then he returned to Simcoe in 1904 and bought that building and established the Stalker Engineering Company. When the Stalker Engineering Company first started, they focused their work on repairing stationary gas engines and batteries. Now, you'd think they would have problems with fires as well, but Stalker was very mindful of what had happened with Steinhoff and his foundry, and he decided that he'd have to completely rebuild the structure with a brick structure. From around 1905 until about 1920, he completely rebuilt the entire building. By January 1924, John Stalker's son, Colonel William Douglas Stalker, began working for the Stalker Engineering Company. He eventually would take over the business, and he ran that business for several more decades until about 1983. Colonel William Douglas Stalker was born in 1898 in Simcoe. He had an electrical engineering degree from the University of Toronto. He was a veteran in World War II. And he was very active in the community. He was in our local municipal government in town of Simcoe as an alderman. He eventually became the clerk and the treasurer of the town of Simcoe, and was also the manager of the Public Utilities Commission for about 40 years. So Colonel Stalker was very active in the community, and he had a real interest in preserving the local heritage. He was a past president of the Norfolk Historical Society. He was past president of the Simcoe Rotary Club, and he also had a local history column in the Simcoe Reformer, which was called "It Was Only Yesterday." Because of his dedication and service to the community, in 1972, the town of Simcoe decided to pass a bylaw to rename Cedar Park Stalker Park. Stalker Engineering Company had a real significance in Norfolk County. It made manufacturing contributions not only locally, but also to both world wars. During World War I, Stalker Engineering Co. made wheel boxes for gun carriages. During World War II, they manufactured crankshafts for corvettes and auxiliary engines. Following the war, most of the work they did at Stalker Engineering involved general repair work, garage work, and they were manufacturing dies and punches for tin cans. So Colonel Stalker continued to run the business until 1982, And then eventually the building was transferred to Shirley Stalker in 1990 and then was sold to the current owner in 1989. Because of the historical significance of the building, it was designated as a heritage building in 1982, not only because it is an early example of a foundry in the area, but also because of certain unique architectural elements. The building has windows on the east and west side, which are important features that are part of the heritage designation, as well as it has a low-pitched gable roofline. The windows were really important in the history of the building. They were used as light down into the factory, but also the windows could be opened to provide the necessary ventilation that was used during the time as a foundry and as a repair shop. So today the building sits right by Wellington Park. It's almost in the park and right on the Lynn River. It no longer has the 200 acres that it used to have and no longer manufactures large agricultural tools, but is now a residential building used for apartments. Next time you drive down Colborne and you see that building, you can really remember the importance that building had in Norfolk County's manufacturing industry, and that's an important part of our history.
In the late 1990s, I considered purchasing this building. I think it's one of Simcoe's more unique and interesting structures. It's great to see that the building has been preserved, and after being turned into apartments, it's found a new life for the coming years. If you're looking to move in and around the Simcoe area, be sure to contact us at progressiverealtygroup.ca, your hometown realtor.